All right, welcome to another short card review video. Today we're going to talk about the card that changed Iron Man forever, or maybe not forever, but at least changed Iron Man and made him a lot more viable for a lot more people. And then the secret ally that a lot of people don't use when playing solo that you should definitely consider, assuming you have a certain other card. And we'll get into all that in a second. But do me a huge favor, make sure to hit subscribe. I know people skip over this section. Don't yet. Hit subscribe if you have not done that yet. It helps the channel so much. We have over 5,000 subscribers. We're getting so many each day. It's kind of crazy how much the channel is growing recently. So I really appreciate you all that have hit that button. And everyone that has hit subscribe, thank you so much. Without you all, I would not be here today. So let's go check out some cards. The first one I want to talk about is the card that changed Iron Man. So for those that don't remember the Iron Man hero, he has a one hand size, right? That's kind of hard to forget. But for each tech upgrade you control, he gets a +1 to his hand size to a maximum of 7. Hey, look, there's a tech upgrade. Because before this, we hadn't really had many tech upgrades or any that really made sense. Energy Barrier comes along in the Miss Marvel Hero Pack. It's a 2-cost upgrade, uses 3 counters. When you would take any mad damage, remove 1 protection counter from here, prevent 1 of that damage, and deal 1 damage to the enemy. Kind of a pretty cool card. It still to this day is a card I use a fair amount, just to be able to like kind of reduce it by 1. If we're playing perfect defense or just trying to minimize damage in general, it's a great way that like, okay, a minion is going to do 1 damage to me. Okay, taken care of. Energy Barrier takes care of it. Energy Barrier doesn't exhaust, which is super nice. Just has 3 counters on it. Or if somebody else, the villain, does 2 damage, I only block for 1, and then this picks up the other one, right? It's like a safety net that's really nice and really strong. But it's also the card that I think made Iron Man viable for solo early on. And I hate saying it that way because he could always be played solo. It was just kind of rough going and you had to be a little more aggressive with how you did things. But Energy Barrier, again, gave you that option of putting in 3 of these cards so that you had 3 more tech cards in there and you could play to get your hand size up faster. Because once you get the 7 hand size, like Iron Man's flying, right? He's doing really well. So this whole card for Iron Man was a big change. It was a big, strong thing. To this day, a lot of people still go that strategy, right? Of adding these cards in, playing Iron Man protection, again, just to help his tech upgrade hand size. And it just shows, I think we need more tech cards in general. But it is a really, really good card to use. And to this day, it's a good card to use. I feel like this is one of those cards that has survived the test of time at this point, where we used it back in the day. We used it in the middle game, and now later on in the game, or the most recent game, I guess, like we still use it. It's still used in a lot of decks, and I think it makes a lot of sense to use. The other card that makes a lot of sense to use, I think people didn't really get the first time, was Lockjaw. Lockjaw is kind of a weird card in a sense because it's a 4/2/2 4-stat line, but the 2s are consequential damage 2s, right? So that's really kind of hurts a lot. But the big benefit is you may play Lockjaw from your discard pile during your turn. You have to pay his cost. This is actually kind of bonkers because the card itself wasn't bad. And if you ended up with a resource-rich hand and he was in your discard pile, you could use those resources to pay for those cards. Now, there's been a great debate, and maybe we talk about this sometime on a live stream or something like that, which, by the way, if you're not part of that community, go over to twitch.tv/D20. We're working to join the live stream community. It's a lot of fun. And we could talk about this sometime. But there has been, if you want to call it power creep, you can call it power creep. If you want to call it just whatever, it doesn't really matter. But basic cards are really powerful nowadays. They are really powerful. And one of the things that's helped spur that, this is from the Wasp pack, which is why I recommend everyone get Wasp. The Power in All of Us is basically a double resource for any gray cards. It's an incredibly powerful card because there's a lot of gray cards that are really powerful. Teaming up Lockjaw and the Power of All of Us, where you get the Power of All of Us, Lockjaw's in your discard pile, and then, okay, maybe I have another double that I can't really use, and now it's 2 cards to put Lockjaw in for my discard. That helps a lot, right? And especially with effective costs. So if you have a 5 hand size and you have 4 single resource cards and the 4th card's a 4-cost card, this is your entire hand size. So it really costs you 5 resources when you think about it. Playing it from your discard pile saves you one of those cards from your hand space. So anyway, it's a card where I used a lot in the beginning. I kind of faded away from it because I stopped using it, but the card is still really good for solo. It's really helpful to be able to get a basic ally or just an ally out there in any aspect that can thwart 2. Thwarting 2 is a really good amount in Marvel Champions for solo. Generally speaking, that will keep your board game state like kind of level, right? 1 is a little weak and you're going to get run over eventually. 2 at least keeps things in check pretty darn well. 3, you're doing really well. But a lot of heroes don't have 2 threat removal, right? They only have 1 when you exhaust them. Lockjaw gives you that too, which is really nice. So anyway, I'm a big fan of Lockjaw, again, because you can just keep playing from your discard pile if you want, and especially when you have resource heavy hands. And there are strategies out there where you run 7 to 9 resource cards, right? And it can actually work really well. I know a lot of people like to think that it doesn't, but it can. You sometimes get a bad hand, but sometimes you get some bonkers good hands, and it's definitely worth at least trying. It's not like the best strategy, but it's definitely a good strategy. Anyway, this is a card I think a lot of people overlook. If you have the power in all of us and you're running a more basic heavy deck where if you're comparing your aspect cards to your basic cards and there's more basic cards, I definitely think it's worth looking into the power in all of us if the cost curve makes sense. But if you do that, it's also really worth looking into Lockjaw, especially if you think you're going to struggle with any threat removal. All right, once again, I want to thank everyone that's been watching these videos. Like I said, it's kind of crazy. The response to these videos have been much more than I expected. This is one of those things that just came up on a whim. They're like, it'd be fun to talk about some old cards because we haven't done that in a while. So I appreciate everyone that's taken the time to watch these videos. It truly means a lot. Thank you so much. And yeah, I guess I will see you all next time.